This morning I was told that on St. Patrick's Day, if you're not wearing green, you get pinched. Has anyone ever heard this before? Yeah, there's a few of you. I've never, so I went and I put, this is it. This is what I got. And I'm actually not on guest services today, but look, I don't want to get pinched. I think someone made that up and only told a few of you, because most people don't know that. Vacation is coming, at least for most. Summer vacation happens in the summer, and summer's coming. Hooray for both vacation and summer. This is an interactive part of the service. I want you to vote by raising your hand. How many of you, the perfect vacation will be on a beach somewhere, white sand beach, really great waterfront to look at? We got no love for white sand beach. Oh, we do have a few. Okay. How many of you would like a fishing boat somewhere, you and nobody else, nice and quiet? We got a few people there. What about like in a cabin in the woods with no mosquitoes at all? Anybody? We got a few of those, roaring fire, that kind of stuff. How many people would like a cruise where every need, thought, desire you have is just handled by someone else, and a buffet? Who would like that one? Yeah. What am I missing? What is the other? World travel, far away from here. Fly, you're in Europe, you're in Scotland, something like that. Lots of those. What am I missing? Someone call out what the perfect one is. Camp? I heard that. Water? The next one? Listen here, Mexico, you just got back. Here's mine. I'm going to tell you mine. This is going to stress some of you out. And I know this is crazy, but I got to tell you, this is what I want. I want this. I literally dream about this at night sometimes. I want to fly to a far off place in North America that is warm. It doesn't snow there. Let's say Texas, just for fun. I want to fly in with a backpack. In my backpack is one change of clothes, one toothbrush, and a socket set. Jeb, I'm watching you. You need to light up on this one. Here's what I want to do. Me and Jeb are going. Here's what I want to do. I'm going to fly in. Once I land, and not before, I'm going to open up Marketplace. And I am going to find an old car from the 60s. Not a car that someone has fixed up to ensure reliability. I will walk right past that one, and I will go to a car that has been basically not touched. It doesn't even need to run. And I'm going to purchase that car, and I'm going to make it run, and I'm going to drive it back here, and every time it breaks down, I'm going to figure it out. Oh, I want this so badly. Raise your hand if you would hate that. Hate that. You don't have to come. You don't have to come. It's just me and Jeb. And my wife's not coming, not because she isn't invited. In my perfect vacation, my wife is beside me, but that's so deep into fantasy that it's just never going to happen. Ever. I want to do that because then I will get home with some 60s car that I get to keep, but also with a story, and I don't know which one I like more. But wow, that's my perfect vacation. But there is a problem, only one. Only one problem with this. I really do think, and you might resonate with this, that even if that was happening, the perfect vacation, the white sand beach, the cabin in the woods, the travel, whatever, I still might not be happy. And here's why. Because I'm bringing all of me on vacation. And I don't know if you've ever been on vacation, but your brain is still at work. Your brain is still dealing with that weight on your shoulders, whatever that may be. Perhaps there's a grief that just is your constant companion. I have a friend, he's a pastor in Golden, BC. He talks about his loyal companion, Black Dog. Some of you know what that term is. That dog's name is depression. Depression is desperately loyal, never from his side. And everywhere he goes, his companion is with him. And his prayer to the Lord is that Black Dog will run away. But today, Black Dog is still there. And so my friend is a poet, and he wrote a poem called Black Dog. And it's a poem that is interesting to me. I'm not a person that struggles with depression, but I sure see it. And I sure recognize that that's real. And I want you to know that if you do struggle with depression, my goodness, with anxiety and depression, my goodness, we are sympathetic, and we will pray with you that someday you will have a new pet. That one will leave you. Because that one wrecks vacations, doesn't it? All the thoughts, all the stresses, all of those things. And it's interesting because as we've been going through our series, and today is the last day of our series, the series of Says Who? The series that goes through all the different things that our society has said to us, has said, pursue this thing, and we've looked into Scripture and we've said, but Jesus says, pursue this different thing. Today the topic in Says Who is, so long as you're happy. So long as you're happy, do the thing that makes you happy, so long as you're happy, whatever that is. But the problem with that is, no matter what we do, happiness does not seem to follow us. And I just have a suspicion that I will be driving my 60s car, heading my way back, and my head will not be in the enjoyment of that, but rather in severed relationships, in work stresses, in world atrocities, or maybe just in the broken parts of my heart that I long for God to heal. And maybe you too might feel like that. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 17, verse 9. This has actually been the verse that has informed the entirety of the series. The heart is deceitful above all things. You know what you want. You want that cabin in the woods. You want this, whatever it is. The divorce courts are full of people who knew the desire of their hearts. The jails are full of people who knew the desires of their hearts, yet they have not found joy. Your heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? Raise your hand if you can understand your heart. I can't either. I know that my heart will lead me astray. I know that when I walk into a new car dealership, I will find no joy there. And I'm not saying don't buy a new car. You guys all go do what you want. But for me, I don't like the debt that would come with it. This is just me. I don't like it. I really like the shiny thing. But I don't like what comes with it. And I've been there before, and I have found that I could get rid of the shiny thing, and if I could get rid of that, I would get rid of the debt, and I wanted that. My heart lies to me all the time, and I don't understand it. And the Bible, the Word of God, points us again and again at Jesus and what Jesus said and what Jesus taught. And it is so countercultural to what our heart says. There's two problems with as long as you're happy. Here's one of them. This is a great big one. In order for you to be happy, everyone else has to be on board with the desires of your heart. Because the word no is an ugly word, hey? It really is. I showed my wife, by way of confession, I showed my wife the place on Ring Road where I got mad because someone was going slower than me. That ever happened to anyone else? Let me flip it on you. Everyone going faster than what you think they should. Woo! That'll just fire you right up. At least it will me. I was having a perfectly good day until someone said no. Then I wasn't having a good day anymore. At all. Would have been better if they did exactly what I wanted them to do. Then I would have been happy. Right? They're wrong. They should stop. Also, some of you like music I do not like. It's way too slow and quiet. So stop that. Change your music to what I like. That will make me happy. My kids, we have a thing in our house where doesn't matter how many pairs of scissors we buy, there are no scissors. I have tested this. I think there's a critical mass theory that if you buy enough scissors, at some point you have saturated the market and there will be scissors. Except I have proven time and time again that's fictitious. For whatever reason, I am not to have scissors. My kids ensure this. I think their rooms are made primarily of scissors, but I'm not allowed to have them. And every time I need to cut something, I either just don't cut it or I go buy an additional pair of scissors. It would make me happy to have scissors. If only they would allow me to have scissors. Maybe if you're a teacher right now and you're dealing with the strike, you'll have a connection with if everyone would just do what you think is right, you would be happy. Or perhaps you're on the other end of it, and if all the teachers would do what needs to happen, then you'd be happy. And I want to say that with all respect. I mean it with all respect. Some of you are retired. With that brought great joy, right? It's exactly as you thought it would be, right? Some of you got your first job. Great. You will never run out of money. We need everyone else on board with our joy, or it doesn't work. And here's the second part. Even if everyone is saying yes to you, as has happened with dictators, with kings, over millennia, this has happened. We are still not happy. It's deeply challenging. There is a person named Joseph Stonewall. And Joseph Stonewall was the president of Moody Bible Institute. He has since gone on from that, and he is the president of Cornerstone University in Grand Rapids, Michigan. But when he was the president of Moody Bible Institute, he wrote something that put a voice to something I felt deep inside of me. And he wrote, it's not really a poem, it's just a section of a book, and it's called Tired of Me. And I'm going to read this to you, and I wonder if this might resonate with you. At the time of his writing, he said, I am only 57 years old, and I already find myself weary of the hollow thoughts of what few accomplishments I may have mustered in my life. My failures continue to embarrass me. The inadequacies I have carried with me since my youth still frustrate me. My insecurities still trouble my soul. And the praise of others has an increasingly hollow ring. I am tired of worrying about whether or not the sermon I preached was good enough, or whether or not someone will pat me on the back for a job well done. I am tired of worrying about what people think of me. I am weary of the carnal feeling that sometimes haunts me when someone talks about his favorite preacher and it's not me. I wonder if he's the only one who's ever thought that. Bottom line, I just flat out get tired of me. But I never get tired of Jesus. After all these years, I still find him more compelling, more engaging, more awesome, more surprising, more fulfilling, and more attractive than ever before. I never get tired of singing his praises or watching him perform. I find him to be a gripping, absorbing, beyond comprehension. And that's why, along with Paul from the Bible, my grandmother, Billy Graham, and countless others over the years, I find myself longing to know him better. I'm increasingly aware that life doesn't go on forever. When we're young, we think we're bulletproof. We live like we will never die. but when your knees protest certain movements, and your eyesight and your memory begin to grow fuzzy, reality sets in. I can see the day coming when there'll be another president of Moody, and a better one at that. There'll be other preachers who bless hungry hearts. And me? I'll be sitting in the corner of some nursing home, waiting for them to ring the lunch bell. And if life up to that point has been all about me, it is going to be a very sad and empty day, no matter what they're serving for lunch. Why? Because all I will have will be me, which at that point won't be very much. But if my life has been about knowing Jesus and experiencing a deepening relationship with Him as I sit in that corner of the nursing home waiting for the lunch bell to ring, He will be there with me. The mighty Son of God, the bright and morning star, the desire of all nations, the great shepherd of the sheep, the wondrous creator of all, the King of kings and Lord of lords. He'll be more wonderful on that day than ever before. He'll talk with me, and I won't have any trouble hearing Him when He tells me that I am His own. He'll say, "Well, Joe, you're almost home." And I'll say, "Lord, the sooner the better. I've heard your voice through all these years, but I can't wait to see your face." And He and I will be having such a grand time of fellowship, I might miss the lunch bell. Wow. Yeah, that. Me too. Can you sign my name to the end of that? I didn't write that, but yeah. If it's just me sitting there talking to you about an old car and a trip, and that's it. Or if it's just me sitting there and saying I made millions and millions and millions. Or I was so pretty. Wow. Is that enough? Serving soup at noon. Or is there more? I've told this story before. My grandfather grew up in a home ruled by alcohol and violence. And he met the woman who would become his wife and my grandmother when he was 13, and he was invited to that home for meatloaf, which is the food you make that cleans out your fridge. And he went there and he ate meatloaf with a whole bunch of other people, and someone knew how to play the piano, and they brought him into the room along with everyone else where there was a piano, and they began to play, my grandpa would say, spiritual songs. We would call them hymns. He'd never heard them. That's not the world he grew up in. And he began to weep, which embarrassed him because in the world he grew up in, men don't cry. Men hit. They don't cry. And he began to cry and he wished he could disappear, but he couldn't. And that 13-year-old girl who would become my grandmother went over to him and in a sweet way and in an innocent way, she said, "Why are you crying?" And he said, "I don't know. But if you'll just leave me here, let me cry." Do you know what I think he was saying? I think he was saying, "God, don't turn me from your presence. Don't turn your face away from me." I don't think he had the words to say it. I know he didn't. But that's what I think he was saying. And I think in that moment, my family tree changed. Eventually, after the war, he went back. He went to a church that he was invited to go to a whole bunch of times, and he always said no, but that pesky person that invited him wouldn't go away. Like, for real? And would show up, and he would hide in the bushes, like, for real? Like, for real? Imagine that? And then eventually he said, okay, I'll go, but I'm going to go and I'm going to make a scene. And when I leave, you're never going to invite me back. And when he went to the church, two things happened. The first is someone put out their hand to shake his hand and welcomed him in. That's something he didn't know what that felt like. And the second thing is he smelled the scent that reminded him of when he sang spiritual songs at the piano when they had just had meatloaf. And he gave his life to the Lord. Actually, on the way home from that meeting, he was sitting in the car, and he said, in a defeatist way, I wish I could become a Christian. And on the side of the road of Stony Creek, Ontario, behind two skid marks, he was led to the Lord. And that is the house my dad grew up in, and then I grew up in a house that said, Jesus is Lord. There is more. There is more. It is richer. It is better. Come eat meatloaf. There is more. And I am so thankful for that. Because otherwise, it is nothing but me. Jesus and his disciples went on to the village around Caesarea Philippi. On the way, he asked them, who do people say I am? They replied, some say John the Baptist. Others say Elijah, and still others, one of the prophets. But what about you, he said. Who do you say I am? Peter answered, you're the Messiah. Jesus warned them not to tell anyone about him. That's a weird sentence, isn't it? Then he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed after 3 days. It must be killed and after 3 days rise again. He spoke plainly about this, and Peter took him aside to rebuke him. Jesus, no. You got it wrong. Don't worry, Jesus, I'm here. But then Jesus looked at his disciples and he rebuked Peter. Get behind me, Satan, he said. You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns. As long as you're happy. Then he called the crowd to him along with his disciples and said, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up the cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life must lose it. But whoever loses their life for me and for the gospel will save it. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? Really nice car. The name of my company. My shoes. If anyone is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will be ashamed of them when he comes in his Father's glory with holy angels. Is there more than are you happy? So long as you're happy. Have you been able to pull off happy? And if not, if you think there might be more, I wonder if it might be a good idea to turn to the Creator, Lord Jesus, and say, what do you have in mind? What's your plan?
Thank you, team, for that song. That song is all about what Peter's talking about, denying ourselves and taking up the things of God. If we want to be happy, if we want to be joyful, we have to give up ourselves. We have to give up our desires, our agendas, what we want of this world, and take up the things of God. Deny ourselves and take up the things of God. And when we find that, we'll find our soul again in Jesus Christ. So this morning, if you're here and you've been searching for that happiness, you've been searching for that joy that you just can't find in other things, come have someone pray for you this morning. We want to introduce you to Jesus. I love that story that Peter shared about his grandfather. His family tree changed that day. You have an opportunity for your family tree to change this day. So I encourage you to come up and be prayed for at the front after the service. Thank you for being here this morning. I hope you have a great week.